In India, how this particular OPC will have an impact. The statistics says there are 15 lakhs and above registered SMEs are there. When I say SMEs, it is private limited companies and partnership firms. And also maybe individuals may not come here. Individuals who have who have registered as small and medium enterprises with the SME portal. But what are the unregistered SMEs? Through various statistics they have collected, it runs to more than 2.4 crore entities across length and breadth of the country. We have 8.5 lakh companies. Maybe this OPC will throw open a new challenge as well as an opportunity both for professionals and also for the entrepreneurs as such. Now, with this brief, I will invite the pleasure of having CAP Anand sir here to give his views on this particular chapter, then to the speaker. Over to Mr. P. Anand.
Good evening, participants. It is indeed a privilege when Mr. Raju called me and said you will have to chair this session. Because two things. One, when Raju asks, you cannot say no to him. The second is at least you will start reading such a big act, change, and at least come to know so many other new things. So when we went into this, my job is made easier by the earlier chairman and the earlier session because they are overstepped into our session. So I don't want to take very much of your time in my opening remarks. And the subject that we are going to deal with is comparatively not very controversial, though he says 20 sections, 35 rules, so many forms and all that. If you go through, the only addition seems to be the one-person company. The rest of it is more or less copied from the earlier act, only thing in various forms it has come in. The only thing now, the new forms that have come in, the filling up is going to be real problematic because more of them, some of them are repeated, so much of information is needed. So, and literally we'll have to get that certified by non-professional. So you'll have to guide the person concerned that how you should do and all that. That is going to take time. So that is where what are all the additional information that is required to fill in and get those things, that is going to be the problem. But coming to the one-person company, the only issue that I could think of is they say you should nominate somebody and nomination change and all that is there. The earlier Companies Act as well as the current new one talks about when the nominee is supposed to be the owner of the shares if the person dies automatically. So in this case of one-person company, I nominate somebody who is a minor. But also because the minor cannot be nominated, I put a guardian. The guardian can run away with the shares. The minor doesn't get anything. So there is no safeguard for these kind of things. That is, you cannot write a will or something like that. So where is the safeguard? So I like Mr. Dhanapal, who is more experienced in this field, to guide on this. Then one thing on the articles, how do I deal with the article? Because they say one clause says estrangement or something, this word is used. What does it exactly mean? How do you interpret that? That has to be looked into as far as the article. Otherwise, rest of the provisions is more or less what we are so far used to. There is not much of a change. So you are comparatively comfortable, not like the directors or earlier sessions. You are comparatively comfortable. That's why maybe they overshot the earlier session and thought this session. But filling the form is going to be a real headache. So I think Mr. Dhanapal, who is more experienced in dealing with these company secretarial matters, and he was the first one who sent in a circular to everyone saying which are all the sections notified, which are all the sections not notified, so that you have an idea of what are all the sections notified and what is not to comply with. So to that extent, at least he has gone through the act in full. So I thought I will not interfere now, maybe come back later if necessary, so that you are able to hear an expert on this field and understand what is these provisions for incorporating a company, and especially on a one-person company, how do you deal with? Because conversion from a private limited company into a one-person company, there has to be a waiting period. Same way, when you want to convert a one-person company into a private company or public company, you have a waiting period. Barring that, what is this one-person company, whether you need it or not? That is the question. So I don't see any advantage of this, though maybe practically we are doing a one-person company. Husband and wife, Literally, it's a one-person company only. So what is that, the advantage of keeping this one-person company? That's what, whether we need that kind of provisions in our Companies Act to look into, or scrap this private company totally and only have public companies and leave it to LLPs and things to take care. Why should we have this and confuse ourselves on this? So I request Dhanapal to express his views on that, and especially provisions, to stick to the provisions so that we understand the provisions in clear terms. So I'll, keeping to my schedule, I'll come back if necessary later, otherwise we'll hear the speaker because we're running short of time. Thank you.
Good evening all. With your permission, I will come down from podium so that it will be easy for me to take you through the PPT as well as I can see all you. I don't know, purposefully they've chosen this lighter topic. I don't know whether it's a lighter or a little heavy topic. This is supposed to be the first topic which I heard from some of the participants. Then only we can start with how to form a company, then understand the whole thing. But the reason being, probably the organizer, they would have deemed it fit to, while going, already would have been tired with so much provisions going into their mind, and till your mind is boggling with so many doubts which no answer is there. Even somebody answer also, tomorrow MCA will come out with a circular without date, without signature, saying that from today you have to follow this only and you have to forget the old one. And so this is a scenario where we are. While appreciating all your concern, in fact so many queries raised by the participants here, in fact we are also in the same level what you are, maybe with little more knowledge, since we have spent a lot of time in preparation of materials and book as things, so we are a little more better than you. And in terms of implementation, in terms of understanding the real situation, we are also in the equal foot. Everyone is the same foot only, where we are waiting for the MCA to come out and say, and we are waiting for that blessing only to say that you need not to follow, or you follow, or I exempt you. In fact, before I go into the incorporation topic, what are the categories of company, how to form a company, all that, let me brief about why this whole drafting of a new act has completely targeted private companies and professionals. That everybody knows that, again and again I need not to say, so many forums we deliberated that one case has happened and there is so much scam has happened in the country that made the ministry to lose confidence over the corporate as well as professionals. That is the whole thing has come out in the form of the new law, where it restricts whole corporates in India, almost 12 lakhs company, they restrict all 12 lakhs company without thinking whether the corporate will be convenient to carry on their business or conduct their business. The department is not ready to bother about anything because of the bad experience that they got by keeping the law kind of Companies Act 1956. In fact, now I could able to observe the law which used to be an rather I should say a code in the country. Okay, now it is becoming a policy law, where we already have a Foreign Exchange Management Act, Income Tax Act, though it's a code by means of act, but it's a policy law basically. That's why it never allows you to interpret anything and do. Same way now Companies Act also slowly is, of course, not slowly, it got changed to the extent to convert the code, a complete code, as a policy law. What is the problem with the difference between the code and the policy law? The difference is, in the code, it's a law of the country where we can interpret and we can go up to the level of Supreme Court and say that though the law is, the lawmakers done or introduce a provision with a different intent, I am not getting that spirit from the provision of the Act. So I interpret it like this, or probably that may not be possible and impracticable, and I can go up to the level of Supreme Court. I can see that the law is getting changed. But once it becomes a policy law, no court also appreciate to change the law. The reason being, once it becomes a policy, the whole powers vests to the executive. Here we have a legislative body and executive body and the constitution. Once it goes to the hands of the executive, then chances are very less to go to the legislative body. Now almost, if you see the FEMA and income tax, all the powers are vested with the executive body. That's the reason it's not time and again going to the legislative body. That's why simply by circular they are changing the whole rule, either it is a FEMA or income tax or EXIM, whatever the policy law for this matter. And slowly companies are also becoming like this only, where we don't know, tomorrow you wake up, we don't know what surprise we are going to get from the ministry. They may simply say that I am replacing Schedule 3 and this is going to be the Schedule 3 with effect from today. And we have to keep so many deadlines already. And our mind is filled with so many deadlines. In fact, without understanding only how to keep whole threshold limit only, we put everything in the paper. In fact, I told my partners, my office, better we put it in the paper, how many threshold we can keep remembering. And the fun part is, whatever the threshold that was originally available in the draft rule, completely got changed without any logic or rationale into the final rule. We are really not able to, comprehend, even find the logic or reason why that limit has got changed, or why that parameters got changed, why the deadlines got changed. There is no logic on that. When some draft rule has come already in the website or given by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, probably that draft rule should be fine-tuned based on the representation given by the chambers or institutions, but should not completely change the entire draft rule. Then it's not a draft rule. That without applying the mind, some rule is made, then it has been put in the website. They have not have properly thought or applied their mind or intellectual. They would not have applied their intelligence and prepared the draft rule. Now, if you can see the difference between a draft rule and final rule, complete change. In fact, we came out to the book 3 months back. It's the first book, I believe, in Chennai. After a year effort, it has come out based on the draft rule. But now we are really worried, half of the provisions in the book is become obsolete, invalid. With what understanding we read some law, with the understanding that it will not completely get changed. Probably some of the thresholds, some of the conditions, if it is so important and affects gamut of professionals or companies, then only we may expect some changes in the rule. Not just by a person deciding something and adding numerical without understanding what is happening, how the corporate will follow, what will happen to the professional or profession, whatever it may be. So this is the situation. I've seen many of you have expressed your concern where only there is a husband and wife, why should I follow all this law, rule, Companies Act, all that. Your concern is genuinely. And the problem is, we have been used to run a company under the comfort or cushion that provided in the Companies Act 1956. But now I am telling you, take it from me here, that we have to forget whole our comfort now. In fact, I have to say that we have to challenge ourselves only. Unless we challenge ourselves, who is going to be the loser? We are only. Because the ministry is not going to say that you are struggling a lot, okay fine, you need not to follow. No. That's why in one of the query also I said, when it should be followed, it ought to have been followed, not should be followed. I don't know. If probably once I finish my presentation, I can take some queries, or I can tell my concerns also on implementation of the Companies Act. I don't really agree or could not able to convince where a law gets notified in a matter of 2 days is there to implement the entire thing, and that too the effective itself is same day only. That means the law is getting notified, giving effect from 1/4 on March 29th or 28th, giving 1 or 2 days time. I really don't understand such a big legislation in the country where it governs almost to 12.5 lakhs company in India, whether it's a private or listed company, and it expects the companies to change entire thing and get aligned with a new provision which is 3 times of the original law, the old law. In fact, rather I should say the earlier section is so better and so easy when compared to the new act. In fact, I can rather say 656 section is nothing when it is compared with the new act. Since I have gone through the provisions of the Companies Act and rule better than you, I really take the privilege of express my view that way. In fact, when comparing this new act and new rule, our old companies are far better. Anyway, now there is no option available to us. Now the only option available to us is to comply. Suppose you are a person always think different and against everything, then the next option is filing writ. I am not vouching that, I am just telling you. Suppose your quality is that to debate everything and dispute everything, then we have the only next option available to filing a writ and questioning the whole legality of the Companies Act 2013. So I think second option is not, no, there is no chance of happening of the second option, because we always law abiding person, whatever comes next day morning itself we will read, we will see that how it can be complied and try to find out somebody who has already complied and take input from them how you have complied. We never debate and see that we question the law. Fine. This is a basic input that I want to give about Companies Act 2013. It's not that by understanding incorporation of companies you can understand the entire spirit of the act. In fact, even if you see, while explaining, I can tell you that so many information they have asked, as if somebody who is going to incorporate a company is going to run away from the country, and that many information is now asked.